Madam President.
President Pro Tem.
Madam President, earlier this week, as after months of negotiation, and I do want to compliment before I even start the staff, and later I'll put all the names in the record, but the staff who worked weekends, late at night. I remember times when I get off the phone with them at 11 o'clock at night or midnight, I could go to bed. They were still there working till 3 and 4 in the morning. But after all those months of negotiation, the committees on appropriations introduced the $1.5 trillion fiscal year 2022 Omnibus Appropriations bill. Now, Madam President, I'll explain this is a consolidation of 12 annual appropriations bills to fund the federal government for the remainder of the fiscal year. Last night, the House passed it on a bipartisan basis. It's now before us, and we need to act on it quickly. Our annual appropriations bills are where we reflect and we act on our national priorities. In total, this bill includes $730 billion in non-defense funding. That's a $46 billion increase over fiscal year 2021. This 6.7% increase is the largest in 4 years for non-defense programs. It allows for significant investments in the American people. They're going to expand the middle class. But the bill also provides urgent funding for the people of Ukraine as they battle Vladimir Putin's immoral, unprovoked, and brutal invasion. Invasion which actually labels Vladimir Putin as a war criminal. It is unquestionably in the interest of the American people the Senate act quickly to pass this bill and send it to President Biden. I'll tell you why it's so important. In the wake of the pandemic, children in schools across the country are falling behind in math and reading, and children in low-income and minority communities are falling even further behind their peers. One study found that third graders attending school in low-income communities tested 17 points lower in math than they did just in 2019. And we can't allow a global pandemic to set these children further back on the path to a bright future. And the bill includes $17.5 billion, the largest increase in more than a decade, for Title I grants. These grants provide funding for more than half of our nation's public schools to help students, particularly in low-income communities, meet college and career-ready academic standards. Now, of course, we're investing in these children, but we're also investing in their families. The bill provides more than $6 billion for child care and development block grants. That's a 4.4% increase over last year. And these grants will assist low-income families in getting quality child care that fits their needs and prepare their children to succeed in school. And across this country, the wealthiest, most powerful nation on earth, more than 38 million people, including 12 million children, are what can be called food insecure. So the bill increases support for nutrition programs. These programs are a lifeline to these American families. It also ensures over 4 million low-income women and children don't see their benefits reduced at the end of April by extending the WIC cash value voucher program, special 35-monthly benefit for purchasing fruits and vegetables. It has housed families in their homes by providing billions of dollars to build and support public housing. We understand that hundreds of thousands of Americans are homeless. The bill will provide $3 billion, a 6.6% increase for homeless assistance grants. And we know it's a bipartisan priority in the Congress to keep our communities safe. So the bill provides a 15% increase for Department of Justice grants to state and local law enforcement and communities to prevent and respond to crime. There's also a commitment to the future of scientific research and development and innovation in this country. It provides the largest increase in 12 years for the National Science Foundation. But I think also importantly includes $1 billion to launch the Advanced Research Projects for Health, the ARPA-H. That's President Biden's bold and promising proposal to revolutionize how we prevent, treat, and cure devastating diseases like cancer, Alzheimer's, and diabetes. My wife Marcelle and I had the opportunity to listen to then Vice President Biden speak about this at the University of Vermont Medical School a few years ago. And then again to hear President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, and Dr. Jill Biden speak about it at the White House. I committed to make sure that would be in the Omnibus bill, and I'm pleased that my request to have it in there is there, and that request was joined by numerous other senators. The bill closes a chapter in 4 years that denied the existence of the climate crisis by the previous administration. Billions of dollars to support climate research, mitigation, and adaptation. We have it in there because the scientific community is in agreement we're running out of time before the damage to our planet is irreversible. So we're taking a small but long overdue step to confront that reality. The bill also backs up our commitment to our veterans. It provides $97.5 billion, an 8.7% increase for VA medical care. That provides essential health services for 9.2 million veterans, those men and women who have served our country. And we always promised to back up, as they did us. Now we are. And consistent with long tradition, the bill includes billions of dollars for food and other humanitarian aid for victims of war and natural disasters. $700 million to support global health security programs to prevent and prepare for future pandemics. And it provides the funds to support PEPFAR's global HIV/AIDS program. But anybody who's watching the news knows what's happening with the war crimes that are being imposed on Ukraine by a much larger neighbor, Russia, under the unbelievable, irresponsible leadership of Vladimir Putin. So we've included a $13.6 billion bipartisan agreement to provide emergency assistance to Ukraine and our NATO allies. $13.6 billion. It has the necessary resources to bolster the defense capability of the Ukrainian military, but also our regional allies and partners. But it also supports the implementation of economic sanctions and export restrictions on Russia. And importantly, it addresses the evolving humanitarian crisis. It's a horrible, tragic humanitarian crisis that's resulted from President Putin's unprovoked attack on the Ukrainian people. An attack I call a war crime. The escalating crisis President Putin has inflicted on Europe poses the greatest threat to democracy and national sovereignty in a generation. And this is an area where the American people overwhelmingly support the people of Ukraine. This is not a Democratic or Republican issue. This is a human rights issue. This is where Americans stand with the people of Ukraine. But I remember a few years ago when I was chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, I joined with my friend Mike Crapo, another senator, and we reauthorized the Violence Against Women Act. We dramatically increased it, improved it. We added Native Americans. We added the LGBTQ community. And we added the sexual exploitation of children. Well, the Violence Against Women Act has been stuck. It hasn't been reauthorized. This bill does. It reauthorizes the Violence Against Women Act. VAWA continues to be one of the most consequential laws addressing the scourge of violence against women and domestic violence in our country. I remember how bad it was when I was a prosecutor, but it's become far, far worse today. We need the tool of VAWA. And the bill includes the highest funding level ever for grants to support these programs. So we have $730 billion in non-defense funding. It's a 6.7% increase. We have $782 billion in defense funding, a 5.6% increase over fiscal year 2021. It's a product of months of negotiation, sometimes weekends, sometimes evenings, sometimes day, over and over again. Negotiations between myself and dear friends Vice Chairman Shelby, and the House Chair DeLauro, and Ranking Member Granger. I mentioned earlier our staffs have spent countless late nights working through details of this bill. And those are not just weekday nights, those are weekends too. Giving up plans they might have had, personal plans, family plans, whatever. So I think of specifically Charles Kiefer, Shonda Paterni, Jessica Berry, Jay Tilton on my staff, and Bill Duncan, David Atkins, and Vice Chairman Shelby's staff, and so many, many more who work those nights and days. Far too many names to say right now, but I would ask consent to be able to submit a list of the staff later in the record.
Without objection.
This is a good bill. It's a bill that reflects American priorities. It invests in future prosperity and our health. It reduces everyday costs for millions of Americans, such as child care, to college education, heating and cooling costs. It's a bill that invests in us, the American people. We know that a government shutdown on Saturday would be senseless. Look at the impression I'd give the rest of the world when we're telling everybody to stand up and be strong. We know the delay would be senseless. So I strongly urge all members to vote aye when the bill comes to the floor, and I would suggest the absence of quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
I withhold my request for the absence of quorum, if I might. And I ask consent to be my whole statement be placed in the record as though read.
Without objection.
Now I suggest the absence of quorum.
Clerk will call the roll. Ms. Baldwin.